Hello and welcome to Film de Siècle, the film and media channel focused on all things 90s and 2000s. This week, Seb and Olly will be discussing The Grinch.
Hello and welcome to Film de Siècle. We continue our Christmas extravaganza with this week's review of The Grinch, starring Jim Carrey.
I haven't seen this film in years, since I was a kid. I would occasionally, I'd turn on Sky Movies and it'd be halfway through, and I'd see it in 10-minute clips before I got bored of it. I did at some point, I think, actually watch it in full.
Okay.
But
clearly didn't leave a strong impression on you either way.
No, I liked it. I just didn't have much of an attention span back then.
Yeah, apparently The Grinch stars Jim Carrey, Taylor Momsen, and Kelly. That's what the description says. It doesn't give a last name. Kelly, just Kelly with an E. Kelly. Is it like Sinbad where they don't have a last name?
You haven't misread, and R. Kelly is in this movie somewhere.
No, it just says Kelly. And I say they because it's a non-gender specific name, really, so it could be either. I don't know who Kelly is.
Yeah.
Is it meant to be Kelly somebody and they've missed the ending of it?
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't think it really matters all that much.
Yeah, I remember being taken aback by the shape of the noses of the characters in this film, which was never exposited upon. I think it's just something that's there that is part of that world.
See, I think what they tried to do was they tried to replicate the art style of the original cartoons and the original illustrations by Dr. Seuss, but you can't really do that using prosthetics, otherwise they just look like hideous monstrosities of nature.
Well, that explains a lot.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I have no strong memories of this. I remember seeing it a few times and liking it. I always jump at the opportunity to see Jim Carrey on our screens because I think that he's an international treasure. I think he's one of the best human beings that has ever existed, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. He's made some remarkably good work, and by all accounts, he's a decent, good human being.
He is quite a guy.
Exactly. And that's why I like seeing the new Sonic movie, because it was just great seeing him on our screens again. And it's weird to think the last movie I went to see was a Jim Carrey movie in the cinema.
And it was also Sonic the Hedgehog.
I know, I mean, that could be any year. But, no, it's remarkable. Yeah, I remember...
That was this year. Jesus Christ.
I know, I can't believe this movie's 20 years old, actually.
Bloody hell.
Because I remember it being new. I remember being aware of the Grinch character just because of Home Alone 2, when Kevin's watching the Grinch and then it transitions to Tim Curry smiling, which we're going to be watching next week as well, so there's a plug for next week's video.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what this will be, because this is one of those that people don't agree is terrible, but it's not one that a lot of people consider a classic.
I remember it being funny, but then I was a child.
Exactly. I'm wondering if my memories of being an easily amused child are dimming the situation here, or whether it was legitimately good, or whether it was actually terrible and I just didn't realise at the time. Let's find out. Yeah, let's find out. It could be somewhere in between. I think that's the most likely option here.
Okay.
Alright, see you soon, guys. We're going to go ahead and watch that and tell you what we thought.
Alright, we'll see you after the credits roll.
We have returned after watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas, because that's what it's called. It's the 2018 Benedict Cumberbatch movie that is called The Grinch. Ollie, my first question to you is, did you enjoy the movie?
Not as much as I remember, to be honest.
Really? That's very interesting, because I have the exact opposite response. I like this movie a lot more than I originally did.
There's things I like about it, but I was sort of feeling the runtime, halfway through.
I know what you mean, it was kind of, 20 minutes longer than it needed to be. I agree. I liked it, but I agree.
I really don't think that story had all that runtime in it.
Do you know what? I was actually more engaged in the bits that were added in than I was with the original story.
Yeah.
I thought I really took the whole thing about him growing up and people being prejudiced against him and him having a girlfriend.
Well, no, it was the mayor's girlfriend that he had a crush on.
Yeah, but they weren't really she wasn't really that into the mayor, was she?
Yeah, no, she was clearly into the Grinch.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you know who could have done a good job of playing the mayor? Actually,
Who?
Alec Baldwin. I feel like they only got the person who actually played the mayor in this movie because Alec Baldwin wasn't available. Maybe he was off filming The Aviator. I don't know. Yeah, I like this more than I remember liking it. It's just such a relatable movie. I like the things that the Grinch says. It's like, oh yeah, I don't like Sundays after that kind of thing. He's both content in his own company and also lacking something at the same time. It's he can be both things at once, and I like that the Grinch embodied that.
And he also eats glass bottles.
Yeah, I love it's those silly little things that I can imagine that Jim Carrey just improvised because, like all comedian-led movies, there were 10 or 20 minutes of the comedian just being comedy that doesn't really relate to the plot in any way.
Any gold stars I do give this movie go to Jim Carrey, to be honest.
Yeah, it would have been mediocre without him, I admit that.
I mean, parts of it are mediocre with him, but it's like...
I mean, Jim Carrey must have a really sore back after carrying the Grinch for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's what I said. It could have done with being a good deal shorter.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what I'd cut out, to be honest. I mean, I'd probably abridge the whole events about his childhood and upbringing. But for some reason, I actually really liked that.
Yeah, and then I did like the bit where he gets invited to be the cheermeister, they said it was. And then it starts off, he's being really overwhelmed, but then eventually he gets into it, and then by the time of the sack race, he's actually enjoying himself.
I love that scene because it's true, Christmas can be overwhelming, especially when you're surrounded by lots of people and lots of family. And if you're a bit introverted, like the Grinch is, like we can be sometimes, then you're going to feel that and you're going to be overwhelmed. And they don't really take into account that other people might feel differently about their thing that they like.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good theme of this movie.
And then the mayor deliberately recreates his childhood trauma triggers.
Because he's an arsehole, and that's a common theme.
Yeah. Like, even when he's trying not to be, he comes across as kind of a dick.
Yeah, I mean, this movie has an innate disdain for power, really, and
Well, because the Grinch does.
Who'd have thought it? The Grinch has themes. And I'm not just talking about Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, I'm talking about the 2000 Jim Carrey movie. I was actually impressed.
He doesn't like how commercial Christmas has become.
He's spitting truth, though. He's got points.
Yeah.
And the girl sort of knows it as well, Cindy Lou. She knows that Christmas is commercialised and that it should be about family and friendship and togetherness. And she knew that something was missing, and then through the Grinch she finds out that's what was missing. I really like that because she's really where the Grinch was like 10 years ago, knowing that something wasn't quite right about it.
Yeah.
But because of how cruel people were, he didn't really have anybody to talk to about it, so he just figured it was because, lol, people are horrible.
Yeah. How flimsy the whole presents thing is brought up when he says that all their presents go to him eventually in their garbage.
Yeah, and he's right. Like, he is very right.
Yeah.
Also, I love the fact that he lives near the landfill, and this can be read one of two ways. Either he deliberately chose to move there because he considers himself trash, because there is the whole self-loathing thing, or the mayor deliberately built a landfill site next to where he lives just to spite him. And you could believe that too, considering, like you say, he bought him a present that would deliberately trigger him.
Yeah, I would believe either one. Or both.
Yeah, and that's great. Oh my god, you can read so much into this movie. It's actually brilliant.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far, but...
I don't know. I really enjoy how much can be read into this. And there's three, actually, because you'd consider them three different characters, that I think are really underrated in this movie.
Go on.
First of all, his girlfriend, the love interest of the movie. Because the first time we see her, she's coded as being really superficial, she's interested in fashion. And it turns out that out of all of them, she's the only one who doesn't mind the way the Grinch looks and can see past that. Other than Cindy Lou. And I really like that because that's how life is. People aren't just stereotypes.
I mean, she's the one with the Christmas light turret gun, isn't she?
I think so. So, yeah, I like how she's coded so that we're supposed to think, oh, she's going to be really superficial, she's going to dump the Grinch because he's not good looking enough. But no, none of that happens. She actually is into the Grinch the whole time, and he basically, I wouldn't say overreacted because people were legitimately being horrible to him, but he reacted terribly to traumatic events in his childhood and couldn't see past all that to see that somebody out there did appreciate him for who he was.
Yeah, I mean, that part was a misunderstanding.
Yeah, exactly. So it would have been very easy for them to make his love interest dislikable, and they didn't. They actually made her one of the few real characters in this. Also, I really like his parents.
Oh, yeah.
For Grinch's parents, who are on-screen lesbians, and that's not questioned, and you see them have a same-sex kiss, and that's all brilliant, because it's just there, and I'm amazed that nobody's picked up on this sooner.
Yeah, I'm going to Google that after we're done to see if anyone did pick up on that.
Yeah, because if this was something that there was an uproar or a hoo-hum about at the time, I don't remember it, and this was at the time when people were complaining about Ron saying bloody hell in a Harry Potter movie. So people were arguably more prudish about things back then. But no, nobody minded it, and I think that's brilliant. They're just people in this. No big deals made. It's just there, and it's accepted.
Right, I just Googled the Grinch lesbians.
Well, whatever you're into, Ollie.
Oh god. The independent.co.uk. The Grinch has a kind of adult secret that will definitely ruin Christmas if this passed you by. Just be glad you managed to maintain your innocence this long. This is the independent. I'm going to click this.
This is the independent, Ollie.
Yeah. Hold on. It might not be talking about it.
Yeah, it could be that there was something else that we missed out on, because this movie has a lot of adult themes.
Okay. If this passed you by, be glad to manage to maintain your innocence this long. This is some info. Right, when was this written? 2018.
Bloody hell, so it wasn't even a 2000 article. Okay.
Oh. This is some information you may regret learning. The Jim Carrey starring live-action version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas from 2000 has been hiding a very child-unfriendly secret this whole time. Considering Dr. Seuss's original tale of the Green Grump Hellbent, I'm not going to read the whole thing aloud.
Skip to the end. To quote Space.
Part of that filler included the past as an adorable, slightly grotesque green baby puppet at the house of two sisters having their annual holiday get-together, and as little baby Grinch looks in through the window... just keys being dropped into a communal bowl to the reaction of an obviously disturbed baby Grinch who realised that his adopted parents-to-be are, as BuzzFeed points out, holding a party for swingers. No wonder it took so long for them to notice the baby. Oh, right. So they were sisters. They were sisters. They weren't lesbians.
No, they were lesbians because they kiss each other on the lips.
I mean,
I can't have had a Mandela effect 10 minutes after watching this scene, Ollie. It happened.
I missed that part, to be honest with you.
It was like 2 seconds. It was like a Rise of Skywalker length kiss.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean they weren't sisters, but okay.
So there was an incest as well as an orgy, and the lesbians and the mayor stole his girlfriend. Okay.
I mean, like...
all of this, Ollie. All of it. See, we're meant to be analysing this film. We've just spent the last 7 minutes talking about lesbians.
Yeah, and I've been checking to see if there was any outrage about a same-sex kiss.
They're not sisters. They're not sisters, Ollie. They're an item. It's very obvious they're an item.
Right.
Yeah. Not to say that sisters can't co-parent, but that's not what's happening here. It's obvious.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree.
So yeah, I mean, either way, there's more than meets the eye to this movie, and that's what I like about it, because there's a lot to analyse. I'm not necessarily saying it's an amazing movie, I'm just saying there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, it's you mentioned some scenes are really well shot.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the cinematography in this. Well, I say that. A lot of it looks very cheap and gaudy and very typical of sort of 90s cartoon adaptions. It looked quite Flintstones at times, especially when they were putting up the lights with the gun.
And the noses.
Yeah, and it felt very Robert Rodriguez at times, and not in a good way. And the noses as well, that was the worst part of this. It was very hard to connect with the characters when they looked so weird and uncanny valley with the giant prosthetic noses. I know they were trying to mimic the art style of the original cartoon, but it just didn't work. Except,
I don't think it adds anything for them to do that.
No, I get what they were trying to do, but it was superfluous and it didn't add it. If anything, it dehumanises them slightly, and considering we're dealing with human prejudice here, I think that takes away from the film. I do actually think it looks really good on the Grinch, though. I think the Grinch looks surprisingly good.
Yeah. Especially given the time. Like, this was still in the early days of CGI, so that's...
Yeah, I really appreciate the Grinch and his childbearing hips.
Yeah.
Also, when he's naked, you never see his wrinkly, green, hairy Grinch knob.
We don't know that he has one.
I think it's covered by the hair. He has one, but it's covered by the hair. And also, it's cold up there. It's probably flaccid, so...
Babies came floating down in baskets. So that's like...
But how do you explain how the Grinch was thirsty for love interest character? There was lust in that little green guy's eyes, Ollie. You can't deny.
It's Dr. Seuss, Seb.
There was lust. Dr. Seuss knew what he was doing. Dr. Seuss knew they fucked.
I don't think he wanted the audience to consider that.
Well, that's why they go through the whole euphemism of, oh, they're dropping them by parachute, oh, it's for storks, because they're telling a child, but how do you explain how they're like, oh, he's a hot green hunk, and, oh, she's sexy?
Those words were never uttered, but...
No, but I'm paraphrasing, Ollie. If I wrote the Grinch, oh my god, imagine if I wrote the Grinch.
Terrifying thought.
I've not seen the new Grinch, actually. I want to watch that after this and compare the two. It's a shame it doesn't come under the Siècle time period, but...
I've only heard about it, and I've heard it's kind of...
Meh. Yeah, it looks meh.
And what I heard of the new one, that he's not even nasty in that one. He's just kind of depressed. And so him stealing Christmas comes off as him doing it out of the blue because that's how the story goes.
Yeah, so he's just too passive to do things like that.
Yeah.
I like this Grinch because he's very angry man yells at cloud.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can believe that he would be as petty as to do all these things. Like, the first thing you see is him prank calling people.
If this was anyone but Jim Carrey, it'd be bad.
I agree. Jim Carrey's just great at portraying that level of pettiness and that level of hyperbole and ridiculousness and over-the-topness. I don't think anybody else could do it justice. They tried to do the same thing with the Cat in the Hat a few years later, and they got Mike Myers. Not a bad call, but he's no Jim Carrey. He can't really properly pull it off in the same way.
Yeah. That's kind of what took me out of it, because other than Jim Carrey, there's not really much else to recommend in this film.
The girl was okay, the little girl,
Yeah.
Cindy Lou, but I think what really helped her is that she didn't have to wear a prosthetic nose for the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's distracting.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really bad, especially when there's like the two teenagers up there with their girlfriends who both look like Pauly Shore. I don't know
Yeah.
what... that just looked dated. Their late 90s haircuts and their stupid prosthetics. You can see why someone would watch the first 10 minutes of this movie and write it off. I thought, oh, this is going to be a bit crap, isn't it? But there were things I appreciated about it, and it was sentimental at the right moments. Yeah, there's a lot to appreciate, but there's a lot that they should have done different. And if this movie was... I think this movie would have benefited a lot from being made 4 or 5 years later. At least visually. But I was really impressed, like you said, with the cinematography when the Grinch on top of the mountain, and you can feel the height and the way that the camera is slanted so that it looks like he's precarious and could tip over at any minute or slip down.
Scenery is good too. The set design is very kids' Christmas movie.
Yeah, I mean, the vertigo effect that they succeed in with the mountain was very Return of the King. I think Return of the King's the movie I've seen this effect done the best in, because I always feel on tenterhooks every time they're climbing up that giant staircase and the orc arm is below them, and that's hard for me to watch today. I just feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In a good way. I like it, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I've got another question. How well did the film achieve its goals, and what were the goals?
Well, I don't know how it did at the box office, but
We'll look up later, because we generally do that at the end, don't we?
it is a good vehicle for Jim Carrey to Jim Carrey all over the place.
As he no doubt did in his teenage years as the young hairy Grinch.
They stretched out the story a bit, but other than that, I think it did a decent job of what it was trying to do.
Yeah, I think that Ron Howard did a really good job on this. It felt a lot like Solo in the way that it wasn't necessarily an incredible movie, but it was a very good character piece. It was very good at dealing with multiple characters. It was good at showing us some interesting visuals and capturing the feeling of being in the mountains as well.
Well, really, there was only 2 or 3 characters in this movie.
There's Cindy Lou, there's the love interest, there's the asshole mayor, and there's the dog. We haven't talked about the dog yet. It's always nice to see a good dog in these movies. And there's the Grinch. So that's really 5 characters. You can't really consider the dad because he's just there to be a bit gutless at first and buy-ins for commercialism and then stand up and say, no, my daughter is right, as if he would do any different. I mean, what else is he going to do? Say, yeah, you are right, Mayor, my daughter does suck.
Yeah.
Lesbian moms, too. Very cool. There's not really any other characters, are there? There's the Pauly Shore twins. That's about it.
The rest are just miscellaneous who's.
Yeah, and there's that one guy who sucks up to the mayor and has a buzz cut like his when the Grinch shaves his hair. I love that. See, I would consider this a problem with the film in a way. Halfway through, there's the bit where the mayor basically reminds him of his traumatic past and he snaps and has a go at everybody, and this is meant to be the low point of the movie because it's him doing a heel turn and doubling down on the way he's been in the past. But
yeah.
I actually was rooting for him. That's the problem. He was spitting facts. It was cathartic to see him wreck shit because shit did need to get wrecked.
Yeah.
So I don't think it had the desired effect. I think we were supposed to think, oh no, you're going too far. You're supposed to be nice now. But I was like, no! Smash it up! Burn down that tree! Shave the mayor's head! Do it all!
Into an inverted mohawk.
That was so good. Yeah, I don't know how we're meant to feel during that scene, because I think we're meant to want the Grinch to change for the better, but I'm like, no, stay this way, you're right. You're right.
Are we sure that doesn't say anything about you?
It probably does. Yeah, I think that it achieved its goals fairly well. I don't know if it's in the category of timeless classic. It's kind of in that awkward in-between where it's not being forgotten by the annals of history. I love saying that word because I feel like I'm getting away with saying a rude word, but I'm not. It's not being forgotten, and it's not fading into obscurity, but it's also not one of those movies where you're like, oh yeah, I have to watch this every Christmas.
Yeah, no, I could quite happily not watch this next Christmas.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go as far to say I'd quite happily never watch this again, because I think in a few years' time I'd be in the mood to watch it again.
I mean, I wouldn't avoid it, but if it was on TV.
Yeah, if it was on TV, or if I was just doing a Jim Carrey marathon.
Yeah.
I mean, I consider this a million times better than The Cable Guy.
I've not seen The Cable Guy, so I couldn't comment.
It's a weird one. I still would say on overall I do like it, but I can see why a lot of people like Jim Carrey's usual work.
Right.
But I think we should watch that next year, The Cable Guy.
Perhaps.
Question 3. Did the movie exceed your expectations? And I think I know the answer already. Carry on.
I mean, yeah, it did.
Really? You were like, oh, it sucks, earlier.
I didn't say it sucks.
No,
I said I didn't enjoy it as much as I remember enjoying it as a kid.
Oh, what? So remember it as this amazing movie to put on a pedestal.
Well, I remembered it being really, really funny. And it was only kind of funny.
Okay, so you wouldn't say it exceeds your expectations. I'm a bit confused here.
I mean, I would in terms of mentioned and the whole, actually being able to relate to the Grinch in a way. So that was surprising.
So you're saying that my argument has won you over a bit in the last 10 minutes or so?
I'm saying that we both have points.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say, I was amazed that I won you over, considering I was spouting utter gibberish for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. But also, it's probably good that I first saw this as a kid.
Yeah, because otherwise it would just be a curiosity.
And as I say, I was starting to feel the runtime there. The pacing was not as good as it could have been.
I don't disagree. I do feel like it could have been more concise.
Not even cutting anything out specifically, just a few trimmings of shots here or there.
Yeah, like the montage went on for a bit. Like, we get it, he stole the whole town's presents. You get that impression by looking at his giant sack later on.
You spend a lot of time thinking of the Grinch's giant sack.
It's just so vast. And the girl was sitting on top of it at the end. Yeah, I would say this exceeded my expectations because it's not as funny as I remember it being, but it is deeper than I remember it being. Like, it's got some good social commentary in there. And the Grinch is low-key political as well.
Yeah. Not even low-key, it's overtly political.
Yeah. The mayor sucks, police brutality, and... Oh, also, I think that he's a veteran as well, the Grinch, because at one point he is wearing, like, a military naval hat.
Well, he could have just got that out of the garbage.
I don't know, he doesn't feel like the sort to do that. I think he'd only wear a hat like that if he did serve.
Right.
Because he's got a bit of honour about him. He doesn't like hypocrites, does he?
Yeah, this is true. It's a bit Randall Graves in that way.
Yeah, exactly. He's like Randall Graves to his logical conclusion, and if he wasn't that good with people.
And if it was also Jim Carrey.
And if he was also Jim Carrey. So yeah, no wonder the Grinch is so resentful. He served his country loyally in military action, and he got no thanks for it.
He didn't, because we see him climbing up that mountain as a kid, and it's implied that he was there from the beginning.
No, I think that in between he did join the Navy. Because they don't accept children in the Navy, Ollie. You're forgetting this small, minute detail.
Yes, but also he takes stuff out of the garbage, so I thought that would be where he got the hat.
Yeah, but no, a naval veteran wouldn't throw away their hat. They'd wear it with pride.
Yeah, I suppose. So what you're saying is that there is an interquel story of the Grinch's time in the Whoville Navy.
I want to see this movie, The Grinch's Naval Adventures. It's a prequel where he just returns jaded because his country isn't grateful for his service.
Yeah.
And that would explain why he has trouble connecting to people. The Grinch has PTSD from his military service.
Well, he has PTSD from the school incident.
Well, yeah, I mean, add that to his naval experience, and you've got a recipe for not liking people.
So Seb's headcanon has the Grinch as a hardened Navy veteran.
That's right.
Who's seen some things, man.
He's seen some things, man. There's so many little moments that are really funny in this movie. Like, why does the Grinch crash into her cleavage? You know, when he jumps out of the garbage disposal and he accidentally crashes into his love interest's cleavage. Whose idea was this? Who thought, oh, it'd be funny if his face landed in her boobs?
Yeah, accidentally for a gag, I guess, is the answer to that question.
I'd love to have been in the room when that idea was brought up and they said, yeah, let's put it in the film and just see, like, how happy whoever's idea it was that they thought his idea was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my god, to be a fly on the wall in the writer's room of the Grinch.
Yeah.
Also, the mayor kisses the dog as well.
Yeah.
But I like how the dog looks really shy afterwards and then scooches away on its butt. Like, it's been sexually awakened by the experience.
Or traumatised.
Or traumatised, or both. Both, maybe?
Perhaps.
I mean, the mayor does get a smooching scene, I guess.
Sort of.
There's some good transitions, too. The time transition from the Grinch as a child to Grinch as an adult on the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that's a very good transition.
I also liked when the Grinch was spinning down the chute, And then it cuts to the girl spinning, and then it slows down to... There's some really fun stuff in there.
Yeah. Also, the legit eerie part, well, not eerie, it's wrong word, but you know what I mean, where the child is almost crushed by the present processing machine in the mailroom.
Yeah, that was surprisingly graphic. I mean, I know that you had to put the child in mortal danger for her to realise the Grinch isn't that bad for not wanting a little girl to die, but...
That feels like kind of a low bar, to be honest.
It does, but I suppose you need one small act of kindness to set her on the path of, oh, well, he's actually nice. This is just a front.
Yeah.
I like how she sees that in him. She's a good judge of character.
Yeah.
And the scene where she challenges the mayor and says, well, actually, we should make the Grinch the man of the town or whatever. What was it? The Greetmeister.
The Cheermeister. That was
the Cheermeister. I wanted to say Toastmaster, but I think that was something from an episode of Frasier.
Right.
Where Frasier and what was his brother's name?
I don't know. I never watched it.
Well, they had this sort of rivalry over who could taste wine the best because they're in a wine tasting club, and the winner becomes the Toastmaster. And I think his brother narrowly wins, and Frasier's really upset about this. That's as much as I remember. And I remember there being a song which went, Hail Toastmaster, the master of the toast. He's the man who can taste wine the most. And that just sticks in my memory.
Never watched it, but I often get told I should have.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that show. I used to watch it when it was on. I never watched it in any chronological order. So I'm not familiar with the intricate lore of Frasier, I'm afraid.
No.
Other than to say Cecil from The Simpsons was a reference to Frasier's brother. Because I think it was the same actor.
Yeah. And Sideshow Bob being Kelsey Grammer. Anyway, are there any more questions?
Alright, you're in a rush. Ollie, is there an element in the film that particularly appeals?
I mean, to a point, Jim Carrey, but there's little enough else to this film for me that it wears thin after a while.
Jim Carrey, yeah. He makes the movie. He makes it worth watching. Otherwise, it would just be forgettable, straight to DVD, gaudy kids movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Jim Carrey in this. Really good performance. I like the funny moments, like when he shouts, I'm an idiot, and then it shouts back, you're an idiot.
Yeah, the echo gag.
That was a good gag. It was predictable, but it was funny, and Jim Carrey pulled it off. Things like him revelling in being disliked and revelling in the garbage and prides himself about how small his heart is. Am I just eating because I'm bored? He's both relatable and disgusting in a way that's amusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they made him too sympathetic, I don't know.
No, they made him about the right amount of sympathetic.
Yeah. Okay, what appeals particularly is the Grinch. The titular Grinch.
Yeah.
How does the film hold up today?
Depends on how old you are, I guess. I think it's about the same now as it was then.
Well, from your perspective as a man in his late 20s, how well do you think it holds up today?
Not as well as it did when I was 10.
No, yeah. I don't know what the kids of today would think of this. I'd be very curious to know. If you're a kid of today, tell us.
Yeah, that would be...
groovy, as the kids say.
Yeah, that would be most lit.
It would be. Poggers. Yeah, it depends on the aspects. Visually, half the time it looks really good and the cinematography is really good, and the other half it looks very late 90s, cheap Flintstones, the cheaper aspects of George of the Jungle. It feels of that ilk.
I kind of like that aesthetic, though. The whole, the bit where the mayor's bed's being dragged through the street.
Yeah.
That looked very...
It works in making everything look tightly knit. It works in everything looking very false and commercialised and prosthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ollie. It does sort of lean into the film's themes.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a deliberate design rather than just, like, a tackiness, like would be the case of the Flintstones.
Well, some of it would have been.
Yeah. For some reason, I sound like I have a real hate boner for the Flintstones movie. I don't. I'm indifferent to it. It's just that visual style doesn't appeal to me.
I don't really remember it that well, to be honest.
Maybe we should review it, because that seems like the sort of thing we'd have a lot to say about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it, but I acknowledge that it's probably not that good. It's kind of average, and to be honest, that's the consensus I thought we'd arrive at on the outset. I wasn't expecting this to be amazing. I wasn't expecting it to be terrible. It's kind of in between.
It's okay.
So, finally, was the film received appropriately at the time?
I have no idea. What's the...
Financially, Ollie, and that is the first question. Oh, did you know that Anthony Hopkins narrated it?
I did not know that, but now I hear it.
Yeah. No, the movie had a budget of $123 million.
Yeah.
So it cost over a Bicentennial Man just to make. I don't know where the money went, to be honest with you, because some of it...
Is that the highest budget film we've reviewed, then?
No, I'm sure some of the Harry Potter movies have been higher.
Oh, yeah.
But the box office was $345.4 million.
It did well, then. And what did the critics think?
Almost tripled its money. I'm quite surprised, actually.
Well, that was the power of Jim Carrey at the time, I imagine.
Yeah, he carried this.
Yeah, and he was really big at the time, let's not forget.
Well, yeah, just look at them hips. The critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, anyway, is 49%.
I expected it to be lower for some reason.
Yeah, because it seems like the sort of thing that would be fashionable shit on. But, okay, it says Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey shines as the Grinch. Unfortunately, it's not enough to save this movie. You'd be better off watching the TV cartoon. Well, I can't speak to the TV cartoon because I've actually never watched it in my life. I just know it from the 3 seconds of footage in Home Alone 2, and I know it from the You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch song.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 things I know the movie for, so I can't speak to that. But yeah, they're right. Jim Carrey does carry the movie, we all know it.
Yep.
And yeah, it is half good, half bad, so if you want to consider 49% average, then yeah, I agree.
I think that's pretty fair. Yeah, I'd say it was received appropriately at the time.
And the audience score is 56%, and that's nearly 1 million people saying that. So
I can see you enjoying this movie if you just want to kick back for a bit and laugh at Jim Carrey's antics.
Hey, that's what I did, and I had a hell of a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about the size of it.
Yeah.
So, what's your conclusion?
Was alright. I probably wouldn't sit through it all again under my own power. Yeah, not sorry we reviewed it.
Yeah, it's one of those twice-a-decade movies, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. I'm not sad I watched it. I don't demand 2 hours of my life back.
No.
Although having said that, like you say, it would have been nicer if it was 10, 15 minutes shorter.
At least.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, next week we've got one of the legendary Christmas movies, and that is Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, classic Tim Carrey caper. Tim Carrey?
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry!
Did you just...
That wasn't deliberate. I'm going to do a sort of amalgamation of the 2.
Yeah.
Or find somebody who can.
Just, yeah, Patara fuse Jim Carrey and Tim Curry.
Could you imagine what that would be like?
I actually can't.
It would be fun at a dinner party, I would guarantee that.
Yeah.
Alright, see you next week, guys.
Join us next week for Home Alone 2.
And do, in the meantime, like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, or if you didn't, then vent your anger at us.
Yeah, come at us, bro.
Brilliant. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.